This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal, welcome and adab. You are listening to Bharat FM, a one-of-its-kind, multilingual, eclectic provider of entertainment, information and news to Indian Americans. Headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio, Bharat FM airs shows out of Cincinnati, Chicago and Phoenix. We take pleasure in our ability to cater to your bhakti, chusti, sphurti, shakti and masti needs with our audio and visual shows. Check out bharatfm.com for our online program schedule and archives. I'm sure the content will definitely tickle your senses. Tune in via the 24-hour web streaming on bharatfm.com or via the Bharat FM app. More information can be procured at 513-488-5070.
Hi, everybody. Good evening to all the listeners and viewers in India, and a very good day to all the listeners in the United States, especially Cincinnati, Chicago, Phoenix, and all listeners and viewers from across the globe. As you know, Storytellers Cafe is a platform for the global citizen, for the global Indian diaspora. And today we have a unique guest. Like I say, always all our guests are unique on Storytellers Cafe. But today, this Sunday, on the 19th of September, I would say it is a coup. We've got somebody extremely special. And our guest tonight is from the beautiful capital city of India, New Delhi. So I welcome Swati Roy. She is the face of Indian children's literature. So I'll tell you why I say she is the face of Indian children's literature, a pioneer in hosting the Indian Children's Literature Festival. Welcome, Swati, to Storytellers Cafe. Swati, hi, you can.
I can. Yes. There was a bit of a lag I could not hear you for a bit. So, hi, thank you so much for having me on this show. It's such a wonderful thing to be able to speak to people across the globe while we are working over here in Delhi, in India, and of course, have a lot of international guests who come to our festival, but we don't go to them. So, this is one opportunity you have given me to go abroad and talk to people who are outside of India. Thank you.
Thank you, Swati. This is a long time in coming. Just had to find the right time and the right Sunday and the right spot on Storytellers Cafe to spotlight you. Like I said, this is a big coup for Storytellers Cafe to get Swati Roy onto our studios. And let me just introduce you. And her introduction is so brief, my friends. This should you. That Swati is one of those heroines who don't like to come on the limelight. So I would say it is an exclusive on Storytellers Cafe. Swati is the founding member of India's first international children's literature festival, Bookaroo. Swati started her journey into the children's literature world by setting up an independent children's bookstore called Eureka in the year 2003. Swati did an honors degree in chemistry, but followed it up with a professional qualification in marketing. She worked in the media world for 13 years before starting the bookstore and then the festival. And the rest, as they say, is history. She has gone to such feats, has crossed not only the Indian border, but gone abroad with her festival. And Swati will talk to us about Bookaroo Festival. She's been working with publishers, authors, illustrators, and storytellers for the past 18 years to spread the joy of reading. You can follow Bookaroo Lit Fest on Facebook and also on Twitter, as well as on YouTube, Bookaroo Lit Fest. So, welcome, Swati, to Storytellers Cafe. Such a pleasure and honor to have you on this platform. And friends, let me just say that, and then you will only hear Swati. You know, stories take you to this mythical land, you know, a story land where magic, anything can happen. You can be whatever you want. And Swati Roy, with her Bookaroo Lit Fest, along with her colleagues, creates this fairyland where she brings the magic in that festival. So, over to you, Swati. Welcome to Storytellers Cafe. And tell us a bit about your journey. I know you've been a journalist, if I'm not mistaken. No, not journalist. You are in the media.
Yes.
I think Venki was a
Yes.
journalist.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, sorry about it. So, Swati, over to you. Tell us about your journey.
Right. Thank you so much. But you've really raised their hopes by saying so many things about me. It's nothing like that. It's just, ideas and people with ideas getting together. Nothing can be done alone, I believe, unless and until we have people come together and then create something, and then out of that something else gets created, and the chain goes on. So yes, it started with a small germ of an idea many years ago. In fact, you mentioned Venkatesh. Venkatesh was my colleague in an organization that we were working in a media house. And it all started by sharing of books, because we used to have food in the cafeteria, and I used to always have a book with me while eating. And he would sometimes take a dig at me and tell me who it could be a thriller or something, and he would just give me the end, the spoiler or something. And, that's how our friendship grew. And at that time, we did not have the wherewithal to start a festival or even a bookstore or anything of the sort. But yes, many years after that, that was, let's say, year 94. And many years after that, in 2003, our friendship continued, and we decided to put in whatever we had, been able to earn into a bookstore, which started in 2003. And this was indeed an independent bookstore, and a very lonely journey, not just independent, because that time we didn't have children's bookstores like that. And the whole idea was that we should be able to provide a space where children, are free to do what they want to do. There's no shushing. There's no stopping them from picking up any book that they want. Just the way we envisaged our childhood. So we started like that in 2003. And honestly speaking, from month one itself, we had started doing things which would interest visitors in the bookstore, which could be, just a talk, by an author, by a local author, a little small magic show based on a book in the bookstore. But everything always revolved around books. We made sure, and that was it was a given that anything that we do in the bookstore has to have something to do with books, literature, and, and children, of course. So we continued in that area or that arena for a while. And those events became a little bigger and a little bigger, and we moved to another space. And we eventually realized that the bookstore was turning out to be too small to hold these events. And we, sort of started going out to the nearby parks, or we, took up a space in a nearby play school or a community hall. And but the genre of events continued to be the same, that it would be a book launch, or an author and an illustrator coming together and telling children about the birth of a book. Or suppose it was an author who writes about birds, then he would take us into the jungle and talk about birds nearby. So everything used to happen within the community in the area that we were located in. And that's where you came, actually, Usha, one time, if you remember. Yes?
I just wanted to say here, I was auditioned at the bookstore but since it was an audition and we had live audience, so I think we went to a school, the basement of the school, and I
Yes.
was auditioned.
Yes,
And then
it was.
Swati Roy invited me for the Bookaroo International Children's Festival as a featured storyteller.
Yes,
Okay,
indeed.
Swati, continue.
Indeed, indeed, that was a wonderful experience, and that is something we have enjoyed all the time. Usha, since you were part of the process, just to find new talent, to find new voices. See, in the publishing world, children's books perhaps is a very small portion, and to be able to come to a level playing field and be able to do something was something that, of course, it happened automatically for us because we were dealing in children's books all the time. But to take it to a festival level, it took a little while, simply because of the need for a bigger space. Honestly speaking, that's how it started, the venturing out or to find. And like you mentioned, how the team expanded and how the festival came about. That's also an interesting story. So we were always on the lookout for a bigger venue to be able to do events for more number of children. We didn't like turning away children or parents and saying that. And these were all free events always, so we never charged for any of the events, and that kind of stayed with us. So there, we were invited to a publishers roundtable, where children's publishers, and we were talking about content and about how to grow and what are the trends and all of that. And there was a question about festivals, etc., which was still not an idea. People hadn't explored it. And suddenly my friend and colleague Venkatesh just announced publicly that we are holding a festival at the end of the year. And though we had it in our hearts that we would want to, but not that soon, and we didn't have funding or sponsors or anything of the sort at that time. But we went ahead with it. So in about 3.5 months, we did have the festival ready and functioning as an operational. But I have to say that in those early years, we had a lot of support. People were always looking, people in the industry were looking for doing something like this. A lot of new authors were there. Quite a lot of effort was being put in bringing out really nice books. The production had become vastly different from before, and the content was so new, and people were experimenting with new subjects. So it was an interesting time to start a festival. And as sort of we dreamt, it happened. People came, children came. I would say that initial lot of children came from the bookstore connection. But at the same time, since the industry was involved, so publishers had their connections, the network was wider, everybody sort of put in their best to, make that first festival successful. And I'm really grateful to everybody that came into our lives at that time to, set it up and take it forward. And then it was like growing from strength to strength. So, not just the venue where we started thinking about Bookaroo, which is the bookstore, even the venue where we did the first festival started falling short. So we had to move from the venue of that venue to another bigger venue. We started in 2008. So 2003 till 2008, we were doing events in the bookstore. And then we moved to the bigger venue, and then to another bigger venue by 2010. And in 2010, the first other interesting event happened in our life, which is we got an invitation from outside of Delhi. So someone just came up and asked, would you be interested to take the festival to another city? And we were, of course, very keen that this kind of a thing should reach as many children as possible. And this was our first foray out of Delhi, which was in Srinagar, Kashmir. So it started like that. And as soon as this model seemed like something that can be replicated or can be moved from city to city, we started finding people who would invite us, or we would approach people who we thought cities that we should go to. Because one of the things, Usha, is that metros or capital cities of states, they already have a lot happening. You know that, right? You are in Mumbai, I'm in Delhi. But it is the cities which perhaps are not mainstream and need a little more, little more excitement, or just taking the happiness of the festival to those cities really makes us much more happier. Which is why we have been to cities like Gangtok or Kohima in the northeast, and uh, you know. Even a rural Bookaroo, in fact, one Bookaroo that we had an opportunity, somebody invited us, and ultimately Bookaroo is dependent on. It's a large festival. Every festival has more than 50 sessions, and in Delhi we have more than 100 sessions just in the main festival. And then there is the outreach where we go to at least 50 to 60 schools, or it's, how the Bookaroo outreach works. We go to
Yes.
children who cannot come
Swati,
to.
Swati, if I may interrupt,
Yes.
sorry for that, but I just want to take the listeners through the journey, because I remember Bookaroo. I visited Bookaroo in 2010 in Delhi, in that beautiful ground. What a fabulous! And I truly was in a fantasy land. I truly was in storyland, to see authors and illustrators and storytellers. And that's when I think I first saw Margaret Reed MacDonald, Jeeva Raghunan, and
Yes.
I think I met you as well. And you were a pioneer. I mean, say Bookaroo was the pioneer in children's literature festival. And everybody else, I would say, were inspired by you and modeled their festival in Mumbai, whatever happened later on after you. But nobody could reach uh, the grand scale of Bookaroo. That's what I remember. You putting us up in a fabulous hotel, having this, meet and greet dinner, fabulous. And since your festival was free, you couldn't operate this without sponsors. And I knew you had very good sponsors. So just wanted to talk to you as to how did you put this, because it I mean, I too have created a festival, storytelling festival. I know there's a lot of work that goes behind, but not on a mammoth scale like you. So could you tell us, before we talk about going to fabulous cities all over India?
So in Delhi, I'll be honest with you, in Delhi, the work starts, both the programming as well as the sponsorship work, or, going and meeting people, starts about a year, sometimes 2 years in advance. But for the other cities, what usually happens is word has spread, somebody's already identified us as a festival that they would like to bring to their city. So there is a kind of, it's an invitation. So what we do is then we create the festival for that organization or that institution, and and take it there. So what you may have seen, so it's a mix. It's not that there is a fixed model. So what you may have experienced is something that was perhaps funded A to Z, and then there are other festivals where somebody gives part, and then we figure out a part, and then we figure out a part with somebody else. So, and then all of it comes together. We have very cohesive meetings where our expectations are put on the table, because our eye is always on the child, the experience, that what you're talking about, that fantasy land. I mean, for an adult to say that, our objective is that the child should feel that way, that they have just broken all the school doors and classroom walls and everything, and come to a place where they can express themselves. They can just be themselves. Nobody's telling them how to draw, how to talk, how to, respond to an author. They feel very empowered. I mean, that's the whole point. So, but you're right, all this costs a lot of money. And we, of course, one important thing, or one thing that stands out about Bookaroo, which most of the volunteers will vouch for, is we do a lot of cost control. We save all the time. We save on stationery. We save on our own costs. So in a way, we are able to run a festival of that kind also because we are very careful about costs. And everybody, I have to tell you, Usha, in the industry supports that. They know that this is not one of those places where there's free flowing stuff. You know it. So everyone supports us, and how should I put it? Understands, if there is a crunch. I mean, there was one year where we had some personal problems, and both of us, and we thought, we didn't know how it's going to pan out. And believe me, it was so encouraging to see how children who have grown up now, their parents came forward to support us, and something we couldn't put our 100% in it because of some personal problem, and the industry supported us. So what you saw as the ultimate output is actually a lot of many years of experience and the love and affection we have shared with people, and of course a lot of planning. Absolutely, a lot of planning. Yes.
I agree with you totally, Swati. Let me tell all the listeners and viewers of Storytellers Cafe, we have Swati Roy as our guest, who is the pioneer of Indian Children's Literature Festival called the Bookaroo International Children's Festival, which started off in Delhi in the year 2008. Swati, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure all the authors, illustrators, publishers, and storytellers would agree with me. It was an honor to be invited to the Bookaroo Festival. Now you would do anything to get your name there at the Bookaroo Festival, because it was an international festival done on an international scale, and that I can vouch, because I've been to other international storytelling festivals, and the scale in which Bookaroo started, and what I saw in 2010 in the early 2 years of Bookaroo being launched, was in a fabulous scale. So I'm sure everyone wanted to be invited as a featured performer, author, whatever you call it, in Bookaroo. So you had that, you were very lucky to have that. So continue, Swati.
Yes,
Continue
yes.
with that.
No. So you asked me about the funding part of it. So it's just that, and the consistency of quality, as you said. Many times, sponsors have noticed that and would come back. Sometimes they wouldn't come back with the same amount as the previous time, but so we managed. I mean, like, let's put it this way, that we have managed till now. The last 2 years have been tough. We haven't done it, and to be very honest, we had options to go online and do an online festival, but it's not as if we've done more than 80 sessions between May of last year and now, but those are only sessions. They are not that whole thing of a child sitting under a kahani tree and listening to a story, another child trying his hand at art at the doodle wall, or somebody else doing some little craft activity, or someone's seeing pantomime or something. So these kind of things cannot be done as in a boxed way the online sessions are held. And most important, the most important thing that I've noticed now is that children are really tired, fatigue. There's so much fatigue about the screen, and it really breaks my heart when you finish almost at the end of a session and the child says, "Ma'am, when is the next class?" And that's exactly what we don't want. We don't want it to seem like a class, but now that distinction is gone, and it's really tough. So we haven't really gone full scale online. What we have instead done is that we have just done sessions here and there. In fact, what you see behind me is the bookstore now, which we opened in the middle of the pandemic, which is again one of those things that something triggers off and we say, okay, fine, we do this. We did that. Of course, we have fantastic, again, as I always say, we have fantastic friends and colleagues in the industry. So we are in collaboration with Rowley Books and CMYK Bookstore. So here we have a space and we are sharing the space with them. But we have had the freedom to develop it into, again, a space for children where they're free to do what they want. And we, in fact, had a fantastic book launch last Saturday. We never thought there would be so many people, so many meaning within the numbers that are prescribed. And it was a fabulous, yes. And so that gave us encouragement that we should be able to do some more stuff in the bookstore probably in the coming days. So you will see some of that on our website and all of that.
Wonderful, Swati. I think you have a little video clipping for us about Bookaroo. So maybe you could share that on the screen, and listeners and viewers could take a look.
Yes.
Yes.
This will give you a good idea of, what Bookaroo looks like on ground. Yeah. Thanks, Susha.
Once upon a time, children were very sad because people had stopped reading and there was no one left to read out books to the children. On a humdrum... These books gave us a hopeful and comforting message that we are not alone.
Wonderful, Swati. That was a lovely, lovely clipping which gave a bird's eye view of what your festival is all about. Is there any interesting anecdotes? Because an anecdote is a story. And the USP of Storytellers Cafe is to listen to stories. You know, what a sequence of events. This happened and then this happened. Something that you would like to share with our listeners.
Uh, okay, this may not, for the people in the US, this may not seem like an unusual thing, but there was one thing that was coming to mind was when we were in Srinagar in 2019, I think. We just had unseasonal snow, and the authors and people who were performing, suddenly everybody got distracted. And is that snow? Is that snow? And I'm getting texts and all. I said, yes, it is snow, and we shall enjoy it in the evening. But at that moment, when like I said, it may not seem very unusual, but there are warm cities in India, as you know, and people from the south and all, they were just so excited to see the snow. And I've got videos of authors enjoying the snowfall and just having such a great time afterwards. And from various venues, they're texting each other, can you see it from your window, and things like that. So that was one interesting thing. Interesting because it was I had seen snow, I'd gone there before, all the recce trips or generally, but this, I really saw the excitement and how authors could become like children. There's another interesting thing that when we had the festival in the village, in a village school in Rajasthan. In fact, two interesting things happened in that. One was during setup, we found a snake in one of the venues. So that was like, for me too, while we were, on top of a stool trying to hang something, and someone said, Madam, wahan pe lag raha hai or something. And then we had to call the snake catcher, and how nicely, and, they're very conscious of it because it's not something to be, taken lightly, because they do go and put it back in a place where it belongs. So I just went through that entire experience and experienced it firsthand, how it was done. And of course, there were children and all who were kind of, because it was setup day, it wasn't festival day yet. But that was quite an experience. And in the same place, one evening when we were supposed to go back to the guest house where the authors were staying, we did not find a vehicle to take us back, because it was a rural area. So we actually drove the school bus back to the guest house. So that was quite interesting. And more so because when we reached a little, it got pretty dark. It was evening and got pretty dark while we were, traveling or driving it. Venkatesh drove it and I was sitting next to him. We saw these little eyes in the darkness, so there were buffaloes coming back home. And I didn't know what to do because the passage could only take either the bus or the buffaloes. So we sat still waiting for something to happen. And what really happened was they went past the bus and the bus shook a bit and kind of, they went past and quietly, there was nothing scary about it, but it was a situation I'd never faced before. But I think that those are things that kind of stay with you, that kind of experience. It was fun. And also when we were in Malaysia, in Malaysia, the story is also interesting because, somebody senior from the library over there in Kuching actually came to see the festival in Pune and invited us again. He invited us to come to the festival, and we went for the festival there in the outreach program, Usha. You know about the outreach where we go to places where the children cannot come to the festival. So this was on one of the longhouses, a small school which was away from the main city. And the person who was going to perform, the storyteller, had to travel by boat. And the boat stopped working mid-river. And she was in a sari, she's an Indian, and they didn't know what to do. And I don't know about it because I'm busy setting up in the main venue. And apparently a rescue boat went there, and then she moved from one boat to another, and she took hundreds of pictures to remember this event because it was such a new thing. And then when she reached that place, all soaked, and all the children and teachers were so happy to have her, and sort of gave her warm drinks and all of that. So that was another very touching and moving, and something that I remembered, that these kind of things happen, especially because I myself wasn't there to see what was happening. But this is what I mean by the kind of the network or the family, as it were, that makes it so special. Each one is invested in the idea and is waiting. Can you imagine, eagerly some 50 children are waiting at the, whatever you call it, the pier or the, a boat place for this person to come, because they've heard that, the boat has stopped and, word travels. So that was an interesting thing. But and the other, of course, when we won the award in London, you remember that, when we
Yes,
had National Excellence Award at the London Book Fair in 2017. So just as how awards happen, it happened, and there was no chance that we were going to win or anything of the sort, because there were festivals from around the world. So when the name got announced, we did have a camera, and we were clicking pictures of everyone else. But as our time came, we got so nervous, we just gave the camera to the person next to us. Said, would you please click some pictures? We are going on stage. And no pictures came out, because she too got nervous, and she only took pictures of the carpet. So that was quite interesting.
Swati, tell us about this winning the award a little bit more. I'm sure our listeners would love to know.
I think the London Book Fair has an interesting international excellence awards they give in various categories. Bookstores and publishers. I forget the other categories, but there was one for festivals, and we had applied for it, and there were several others which were shortlisted, and I remember this 2017, yes. And then we sort of took the plunge and decided that why not go to the festival and see how it is, because the book festival is quite good, the book fair, I mean. So we went to London that year, and we were really lucky that, again, as I say, we have friends all over, because authors, storytellers, poets, publishers all over the world, because we have so many come to the festival. And believe me, Usha, it was such a warm feeling being hosted by different people at different times, taken around the city of London and the countryside, and getting a full commentary from an English author about what we are seeing, what we are eating, and all of that. And so at the festival, at the book fair, we had a great experience in the book fair itself, meeting all the the international arms of let's say a Scholastic or a Hachette, or all the publishers that, and of course several authors as well. And then going for the event in the evening, and then realizing that we had won the award. So it was quite an experience. Yes, something that we really are going to cherish for a long time, to be recognized like this.
Kudos.
Thank you.
Kudos to you, Swati. I want you to also talk about, if I remember, Joe Williams was also a part of.
Yes. So
how did Joe come into the picture?
So this was in the year 2006, I think, that Joe came to India because her husband got transferred here on some work that he was doing. So she came to visit the bookstore, because we were featured in the first issue of Time Out Delhi. And I sort of, she came in, saw the bookstore and said, really? There is a bookstore for children, exclusively for children? She was quite impressed with our collection. And we were doing sessions, as I said, from 2003 till 2008. We were doing several sessions in the bookstore. So she started volunteering with us on many of those sessions, because we used to have a lot of, let's say, origami kind of things. Not an origami session per se, but based on a book. So several times we had to go out somewhere and do a poetry session or something. So we would need to mind the children, etc., etc. So we were always in need of volunteers. So Joe started as a friend and volunteer in the bookstore. And then this idea kept coming to our heads that we should need to go out, we need to expand the festival. And so there our relationship started, and it stayed. And we were together for how many years now? Till 2017 or 17, I think, when her husband retired. And then she said that, I'd like to take a break from all this. So it just, and at that time, like I said earlier also, when in 2008, when we were having that meeting, etc., there were many people. I mean, there was the author poet Anushka Ravishankar, there was Deepa Agarwal, there was Subhadra Sengupta, who we lost recently, then Devika, then Manisha Chaudhary. So there were so many people. For us, it was like a dream come true to be able to pull off something like this, that we, all of us pitched in with whatever way we could, with time, with contacts, with, with ideas. And that's how I think things happen, right? And so now we are 37 editions old, Usha, and we've been to 16 cities,
Wow.
and
Fab.
one international, as in Malaysia. 3 times we've done there, and we are always looking for connections to be able to, because ultimately the aim is to take content to children so that they understand or enjoy books, spread the joy of reading. This
Yes, and
make
also Swati, maybe you would be able to tell the viewers, in the early 2000, the children's content or literature in India was at a very, very nascent stage.
Mhm.
One would all get books from abroad. But over the years, maybe due to Bookaroo, authors started writing, and the writing, I wouldn't say writing improved or writing became something more recognizable. People started becoming aware of Indian children's authors. And today, the books that come out in the market are amazing. I mean, they
Stunning,
are wonderful. It's like,
stunning.
for me as a storyteller, because I do my source is children's books when I tell a story. So I would rather pick a book from abroad, and my resource would be story content from abroad. But now over the years, I feel we have such wonderful uh, novel, very different kind of stories and that you want to pick up and just stick with Indian authors. So, would you say that somewhere Bookaroo has contributed? I feel bringing authors on this platform also made them. And do you have an authors award and stuff like that, or other festivals do that?
So, see, Usha, as usual, one cannot take credit for such a big change in the literature world, but it is true that we have seen an absolute, how should I say, I mean, pleasantly surprised, and not surprised, because I think the time was right when Bookaroo happened. A lot of people were experimenting and doing things, and you're right that there was a time that we were buying books, or international publishers, or their books or their picture books were beautiful and were being sold, because I have the bookstore experience, so I can vouch for that. You're right. And you're also right that so many books have come out now in different subjects, in different formats, and stuff that people weren't trying earlier are doing that now, and these are being accepted by the Indian audience. There has been um, a marked change in the acceptance. There is a acceptance is also a very big thing. No matter how much marketing you do, no matter how much talking you do, but people have accepted. And definitely, I would say our experience in Bookaroo has shown and reinforced the fact that if you present the author, if you present the content in a way where you're able to talk to the child, able to talk to the parent, as a result of that, it definitely lends a lot of excitement to the content, whereas a book just lying on the shelf by itself may not be picked up. And so many times I've seen, what have you got? Oh, you've got this one. All right, I also want. That kind of thing happening with children, because in Bookaroo, it's, as it's always about children. So they buy a book, and sometimes they'll come rushing in, saying that, oh, I have already got this book, I have to speak to this author, even if it's not their turn or something. So there has been a change. And then having the bookstore in so many cities, when we go, obviously we take the bookstore with us, then these books are displayed. They are out there for everyone to see, experience. And definitely in smaller cities, I have got this feedback that these books were not available earlier there. And then we have had let's say inquiries, or queries from local booksellers, to come and ask us how, etc., and all of that, for them to see the books, to handle the books, to know the terms, etc. So we've just been facilitators in that sense. And schools, a lot of school teachers, principals who come to the festival and experience this. Nowadays, Usha, how many schools have festivals of their own, lit fests of their own. This is whatever people say, this is a fabulous development. This needed to be done, because all the speakers who are going to schools, can you imagine how many lives they are touching by going to that school? Because it is a lit fest. I know it's in a school, and you may say that, well, is it part of curriculum? How do you differentiate, etc.? Doesn't matter. My point is, doesn't matter, because the authors are talking directly to children. The illustrators are going and showing their art. poets are, probably doing workshops with children. What more do you want? So, and all these are Indian authors. They're not always getting international authors. Some of them may at times. So in a way, it's almost like a movement has started, and which is a good for everyone. Good for everyone, I would say. And therefore,
Absolutely. Why I say the credit goes to Bookaroo, some way, I may be wrong. If anybody in the viewers or anybody listeners want to correct me, sure can put it in the chat. Because my children were growing up in one of the leading South Mumbai schools. We never had a literature festival. Well, we didn't have, of course, in the late 1990s, of course, we did have the publishing house, not Tulika, which is the other one, Karadi Tales, I know had launched. And I think Tulika also happened around the same time, but I know Karadi because it was launched in Mumbai in a mall, and I know about that. But we never had a festival, like a literature festival. And then, of course, my children left school in 2008 and 2009. After that, I haven't followed. But all these literature festivals in schools mushroomed. Every Nukkad had a literature festival. Now, if you turn around in Mumbai, every school has a literature festival. And it is wonderful because they are bringing authors, illustrators, like we said, publishers, as well as storytellers into their school. Today, it might be happening in a virtual platform, but children are in connection, and every school gets to see them, which is wonderful.
it's
Uh,
really.
yes, I agree with you totally. I just wanted to also to ask you that Booker is also about publishers, distributors. So it's not only authors, illustrators, storytellers. How did this distributors and publishers also come into the picture? I mean, what
Okay.
was
I know. See, Usha, honestly, publishers were always on board right from edition one. I say this simply because we needed support. Many publishers have supported their authors. When I say supported, I mean they may have picked up the tab for their travel or for their stay, and and we needed it. So they were invested in a way. Many of the publishers have been invested in it right from year one. And I can say this at least proudly, that in the last few years, a lot of the books have been launched around Bookaroo. So, and because we are multi-city now, so sometimes our festival would be this weekend in Banaras, next weekend in Delhi, and the next weekend in Bhopal. So, they would probably time it in such a way, and then, consider that as a promo tour for the author. So the author would be, taken care of from one festival to the other, and books will travel with us, of course. So it becomes a bit of a planned kind of event for the publisher. Publishers therefore were always with us. They have, and now again in the last 3-4 years, I've noticed that right in the beginning of the year, we would get a schedule of which are the books which are going to be published in which month, and we could then plan to say that X could go to this city, Y could go to this city. We, on our hand, while curating the festival, would sometimes look at things like the language. Suppose it's set in Ahmedabad, we would probably say that, okay, let's do this or let's do that, that kind of planning. And that can only happen if you are privy to that kind of information. So we are lucky and happy that, again, it's a team effort. It's a everybody's putting in their bit into it. Curation is one part. Managing the whole, as you say, gargantuan event is one part. But the content itself coming in this form. So someone tells me, Swati, stop, don't wait. I have this fabulous picture book coming out. Can we do something around it? But it's still not printed. I'll be printing it around September or something. So I know all of that, and then, kind of pencil it in. And you don't want to see the Excel sheet. It's vast, absolutely. And there's version 1, version 2, version 3, it goes on. So a lot of work goes into that part, that, micromanaging of each session. Because as you know, we need vast amounts of stationery. We need tons of volunteers to come and, take care of various portions of the festival, portions meaning physically also, at each venue. There are activities or there are events where we have to stop people from coming in, any more people, and it's a free event. So really speaking, you can have as many as you want, but sometimes the venue itself doesn't lend itself to more than 50 people. For example, the crafty corner or the doodle wall, which are very resource intensive, and we have only so much stationery, and the author the illustrator can only handle so many people. And the job of the volunteer is so difficult. They have to stop the people from coming in, and they say, why don't you stand on the sidelines and watch, or something like that, which is not at all a happy thing. So publishers have been with us, and many times publishers support us with even stationery and other requirements, which help us a lot. And distributors, well, the bookstore is where the distributor's role comes in, and the distributors are extremely helpful and cooperative in terms of giving us a number of books that we need, or sometimes doing the cartage, the taking it to the various cities, making sure they reach. We can't carry everything with us, so they make sure they reach there. We reach a venue and we see packs of books have already arrived, and you can start working on them. So it has been a wonderful experience. That whole cycle of books, authors, publishers, creators, all of that together makes it it's actually, you're right, it's actually quite a magical thing that we pull it off year after year. And experience.
For me it was magical. Magical. I mean, I wasn't a young 20-something or when I came to Bookaroo, but stories. I love stories. I love telling stories. But to actually live that experience of a magic land, of a story land, and that is what Bookaroo in Delhi to me was.
Yes,
And first experience, you can never erase it. Others can never match up to it. Been to many other literature festivals. There have been many in India itself. I mean, in Mumbai itself. Many of them have taken the, how would I say, they have been inspired by Bookaroo, and they have done a remarkable job, but could never, ever match Bookaroo in my eyes. I know it's not right. I'm sure some of my friends would be peeved to hear about that, but that is the truth. The first experience is always magical. So thank you for bringing Bookaroo into the children's lives and making reading so much fun. And because for when I was growing up, reading was fun because we had no other mode of distraction. It was just library. Going to the library, borrowing books, and every week going and borrowing, exchanging, and one became a reader. Maybe not everybody, but I and my sisters were all readers. We grew up on books, and my parents had a huge bookshelf, and we had so many collections of books. But today, what would you say to young mothers about the reading? Because I see there is so much of distraction, especially the digital and whatever on the virtual medium. How do you think books can sustain?
Okay, Usha, this may sound old fashioned, but reading has its own place. Okay, now that there are digital interventions in people's lives, we cannot shoo away that, or cannot wish away that. And my feeling is, and I seriously believe in it, that we have to coexist. But it is truly in the hands of the parents to be able to give time to the child with books. Even if it is a digital format of the book, the concept of reading together, the concept of reading for the first time, of identifying objects, whichever way. I would prefer books. I don't want to, not say anything negative about digital appliances. But what I mean to say is that the act of a parent reading to the child, or spending time together, discovering something, and having that peals of laughter, or the grunting sound of an animal, those things have to start at an early age. You have to be together with your child to just introduce them to the charm of books. Once you do that, I think it isn't a difficult feat after that for the child to carry on. You have to just keep providing books or providing the medium. And I know at the age of 12, 13, again, there is sometimes a little bit of a struggle. Many parents come and say, but that again, from 9 or 10, if you just keep at it again in the new age group that they are reaching, the new content that they are reaching, and instead of, restricting any content or making it into a difficult thing for the child, you think about your childhood and introduce those subjects in your way. I know it's difficult to be a parent and a friend a lot of times when it comes to disciplining all of that. But I think books are a good way of starting that bonding and continuing that bonding. That's the best way, I think, for all resolution of all conflicts in family life. Also, I feel that you start early, sit with them, because it's not the story alone, it's the act of turning a page together, going back from that page to another page, to go back and look at what the monster looked like on page one, and things like that. So this is my thing, that you spend time with the child, have lots of books around the place, don't ever restrict them about content, what they should read or what they shouldn't. Please leave it to them what they like. You will eventually see them blossom into one kind of reader. Maybe some of them just like non-fiction, and some like only dinosaurs, some like only sports stories. Just let it be. Forget if they're not reading one kind of book. I feel that's my feeling. Yeah.
Sorry, Swati, that was the doorbell and I had to run in. And sorry for that pause. Swati, I wanted to ask you, in continuation of our conversation, as a bookstore, I know that Bookaroo is synonymous with Eureka and, Bookaroo, right? Eureka is the only bookstore
That's right.
which is present in the festival.
Yes.
Is there a benchmark that you have in showcasing the books? Do you have a benchmark for the kind of books that make it to your shelves?
Okay.
I mean,
Hi.
obviously you don't carry all the books.
Yeah. So that, Usha, in the beginning, right, in the first few years, I think 3 or 4, maybe, I won't remember. In the beginning, we did have a wide range of books. But as the festival grew, we realized that sometimes, the more popular books kind of gets picked up from the shelves, which would be available even beyond the festival or before the festival. But as a result of that, the speakers who have come and making all that effort, their books may not be picked up sometimes. So as a policy, in the last few years, we haven't had books outside of the people who are participating. And believe me, that has made such a lot of difference. So a child attends a session, comes out and looks. Of course, the books are displayed during the session as well, for them to appreciate what is gone into this session. Who's this person? What is the book? A lot of times, how there are other popular titles, and nothing against them, but those speakers are not at the festival, right? So for us to raise the profile or introduce an author or show them the whole range of work that that author has done, we only stock the participating speakers' books. So this has been our policy, and it has worked well with us. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, one has to evolve, and I'm sure this is evolved through the years, almost 13 years, even
Yes.
though it's been in the last year on a virtual platform.
Yeah.
So, what do you envisage for? I mean, what is your thoughts on children's literature, and how do you think it's going to grow or build or finish future?
You're talking. Are you saying about the literature as in the content itself?
In children's books, yes.
Children's books.
Literature, yes.
So, Usha, really speaking, we have reached a stage where I can't tell you just how happy I am to see the wide range of subjects that are being tackled, and in younger children as well. Sometimes we used to think that only the older children, more evolved readers, are capable of handling another subject, another aspect of a relationship, or a situation, or a pandemic or a war situation, etc. But trust me, Usha, the number of titles that we are handling on a daily basis, coming from Indian publishers, which are taking huge strides, and we don't have to worry about it. We are in very safe hands. I say I'm the last mile. You create the book, somebody writes the book, somebody publishes the book. I'm the last mile of reaching the book to the child, if there is a term like that. So whether it is through the festival or through the bookstore, and I'm having a fantastic time seeing the books that are coming out, sometimes I get to, thanks for whatever, for the friendships or whatever, we get to know some of the books that are about to come out, and I really feel happy and kicked by the fact that Indian publishing is doing so much for children. Some of the people who are handling or are in senior positions in the children's publishing division have really stuck their necks out and done great. I don't want to take one name and then the others will
Three
get
cheers for them.
Yeah, cheers for that. Absolutely.
I
Yes.
agree with you. Swati, wanted to ask you, but see, that happens with age. I just forgot. There was something very interesting I wanted to ask you. Yes, I remember. Did you ever model Bookaroo after any other children's literature festival?
No. I'll tell you why, because I did not know of any, honestly speaking. The one thing that I have to say, and I said this in year one in 2008 in an interview to Mint, I think, was an image I had of the Hay Festival, where I read about it, that, how you could just bump into an author walking in the venue, that feeling of freedom, that they are, there's nothing like a stage, and there's nothing like a distance between the author and the child. That time Hay is not for children, I mean, the article that I read. So that image or that vision was always there, which was there even in the bookstore. We never stopped anybody from talking to an author, or suppose an author came incognito for the child, and I would quietly whisper into the child's ear saying, she's written that book, and they would just go, and sort of the younger ones would, Usha, we have had situations where, say in a large school, I remember this one particular incident in a government school where we were supposed to tell a story to about 250 odd children, in a central courtyard. And when finally the session happened, the school had corridors around that central courtyard, and there were children all over. They were not of that age even. It's because we had taken a mic there, and the author was the storyteller was performing with puppets, and everybody came out, and then we were literally mobbed because they would just say and come and pull my I always wear a sari most of the time, so pull my achal, and then Valentina was the storyteller. They kind of said, can I touch your puppet? So what I'm trying to say to you is this breaking of any kind of inhibition between the child and the speaker, the author, storyteller, poet, is what we have always envisaged. You said, what did I base it on? So that image of Hay Festival, when I heard that they could be sitting around and there are chairs all over the place, and easy chairs all over the place, and you might just see some certain big names were mentioned in that article. So that could be one little idea, but thankfully, Usha, we have been able to do that. There have been times when a storyteller is sitting at the Kahani tree and the child quietly crawls up to the author, the storyteller, and wants to sit on the lap, literally. So the person just picks up, because we have collar mics, right? So the child really comes and sits on the lap, and it's not that other children want to do that, but it's just and this is all organic. It's all natural. There's nothing we can do.
Yes.
At best, if a child is crying or something, I might just like to make eye contact with the mother and say that, would you like to, kind of. So really speaking, we haven't modeled on anything, but it just grew, and more or less the first edition's format has stayed. We have experimented with content, etc., but the format has more or less stayed of, multiple venues.
Absolutely. Yes. I would be very happy to share with the listeners that I've been part of your Bookaroo festival, not only in Delhi, in Pune, as well as in Jaipur. So I know your format has definitely stayed the same. So Swati, before we come to an end of this session, what would you like to tell the budding, the literature festival people who want to organize literature festival? Now, many want to do it. Let me tell you, there are many bookshops, there are many people who are becoming storytellers, becoming authors, getting into this field. I've never seen so much mushrooming of, storytellers, not about authors, but I know, and people wanting to have literature festivals, schools. Is there any word of gyan or something that you would like to leave us with?
That the gyan word always puts me off. So, no gyan. I could share, but at the same time, I have to reiterate that I'm still learning. There's so much to learn. Every time there is a new development in the technological world, in technology also has an impact on what we do on ground. So we are learning all the time. But one basic thing that I said about parents also is that you have to keep your eye on the child. What is the child? That's why I said about learning. We have to see nothing is fixed. You cannot say that this is the thumb rule or this is the model. You have to keep your eye on the child and the needs and the trends, if I may use the word. Not, I don't like the word trends, but what is happening at that time, what is interesting them. So if you keep your your focus on how to make the child happy, I think everything else falls into place. And for that, you somewhere have to bring out the child in yourself. If you become a festival director or somebody high up there, then all that seems very small. So you have to actually come down to that level. And when I say come down to that level, means height wise, so that you can look at the child and look him in the eye, and and understand that a child can also always come back and come up and tell you, इनको बंद करो, इनको चुप करने के लिए बोलो, मुझे अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है. Even that happens, that I don't want to listen to this person, you please ask him to go. So we have to appreciate that as well. So all I say is that, and Bookaroo is also different in a way. We don't have panel discussions for adults or that kind of adult kind of thing. So children feel free. If you're truly doing something for children, you have to give a lot of freedom to them. You have to be open to their feedback and then change yourself and do something else the next time. That's all I can say. That's all about the child and the book. That's it. It's simple.
Thank you, Swati. You said it all. I think what one needs is to keep an open mind and learn. You're a learner. And that's what makes it, I think, special. And I think that's what makes it special about Bookaroo, Swati, Venkatesh, and Joe Williams, who's not with them anymore. But, we wish you all the best, Swati. I hope the pandemic comes to an end and 2022 is great year for all of us to be physically attending Bookaroo Festival.
Absolutely.
Wish you
Thank
all the
you so much.
best, and Storytellers Cafe. Thanks, Swati Roy, Bookaroo Festival, the Eureka Bookstore, and to all the listeners and viewers. I'm your host, Usha Venkatraman, and our guest tonight is Swati Roy of the Bookaroo Children's International Festival, Literature Festival. And do get in touch with you can always, Swati needs no introduction and Bookaroo needs no introduction. You can always look up Bookaroo on Twitter, on Facebook, and I'm sure you have an Instagram page as well.
Yes, Bookaroo Lit Fest.
Yeah, Bookaroo Lit Fest. And like many tellers come to me, I ask them, have you been to Bookaroo? Storytellers. So I said to Swati Roy, I think I approached Swati, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes you don't wait to be invited. I think just go and take the bull by its horns. What is the worst that can happen? She can say no. Like I said, I had an audition and she invited me. So why not take that chance? I tell many storytellers, have you performed at Bookaroo? That would be kind of a feather in your cap or in your, whatever you want to call that in your profile when you want to go. So do that before, you want to go into other festivals. So I would still say that to all the storytellers who are listening, and do attend Bookaroo Festival online till we are able to do it on land and we can all attend. Thank you, Swati. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. I have the job of playing the jingle once again. And if there is anything that you have left unsaid, you can continue. It's
I'm done. I'm done. Thank you. I never thought I could speak so much.
There is so much more to talk, and I know we've exceeded an hour, but I think it's very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope it all made sense, Usha, and your thing. It was according to your script. I hope.
No, Swati. It's very organic, of course. It is just to bring, our Indian tellers, our Indian people who host literature festivals to the global Indian diaspora, because the world is connected, because in the pandemic. Actually, Bharat FM came about in the pandemic. It was set up just a year and a few months, 16 months back.
Yeah.
So, and it's been wonderful to connect people the world over. And
Mhm.
it's not only restricted to Indians, but there are so many Indian storytellers, authors also we've featured, that they need a chance. Who's going to give them a chance?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
ask myself, who gave me a chance? I had to fight for it.
yeah,
So why
yeah,
not provide a platform?
yeah.
And
No problem.
everybody works so hard to tell a
Perfect.
story or to come onto it. So I'm eternally grateful, and I just feel, go ahead. If you have the passion, go ahead.
Yes, 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 absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. Take
Thank you,
care.
Swati.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you. Okay, bye
you. Yeah.
bye.
Bye bye.
This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.